I've never been described as a second-class citizen before, but I feel it. Anyway, thank you all for coming in. No worries, mate, no worries. Okay, so Datajar, who are we? I'm not going to bore you with loads of stuff about, because a lot of you know us anyway. But first and foremost, me, I've been using Macs since they were beige, about 96 was when I started playing about. I founded Datajar in 2013 with a view of centralising management and providing management as a service to our customers. And with me today I have...
I'm Toms, my name is Manuel, I'm the Technical Director at Datajar.
And I'm Mark Tsuchihashi, Mark T known in Datajar because of my unpronounceable surname. And I've been in Apple Solution Sales. Can you hear me okay, ladies and gents? Yeah? Apple Solution Sales for about 25 years.
And unfortunately Richard Mallion can't be with us today. He's one of our systems engineers. He's a Swift and Xcode guru, or ninja, and he's currently on a spa break. Is he on a spa break?
Yeah.
No, actually, seriously, he's actually working with Apple this week, so he can't be with us. As well in the team, we've got Madeline. She's our operations manager, or the boss, as we like to call her. She keeps us all in shape and makes sure that we abide by the rules. Probably our arch nemesis is Mark, being on the sales side, but yeah, she makes sure we're all good. Okay, we are a member of the Apple Consultants Network. We do a lot of work with Apple, for Apple in certain instances. As well as that, we are also a Jamf Pro integrator, reseller, and MSP. So this presentation, what is it about? Okay, well, we were thinking long and hard about an idea of what to do. I didn't want to be a technical deep dive into bits and pieces because, you know, you guys know, a lot of you know how to use Apple equipment, but it was almost like a bit of a, let's take stock actually and look at what it is, the challenges we face on a day-to-day basis putting this technology in. Just take a second to review this. Who's experienced this? When you say, yeah, great, I'm a Mac guy or a Mac girl. Anyone? Show of hands? Yeah, there's quite a few. It's a bit sad, isn't it? It's quite painful, especially when dealing with things like this. This was posted on my Facebook wall a little while ago by one of our Windows partners. And I'm actually going to show him this presentation afterwards and say, by the way, this is for you. Yeah, we deal with this on a day-to-day basis. What is it? It is so painful. This is what it feels like. Exactly that reaction there is what I say a lot. And it's what, like, ow, why, what are you doing? Doesn't need to be this complicated. So let's pull it back a little bit more. Why Apple? Well, I'll flip that round its head. Why not Apple? Okay, we all know and love the technology. They make the best-in-class products we love. We're all using them today. Everything works seamlessly most of the time. You know, we've all got our iPhones, our iPads, and, you know, ultimately you've got things like handoff. It all comes together really nicely. And for me, personally, my personal choice is to use a Mac because that is where I'm most productive. If you gave me Windows 10, I'd probably spend half an hour trying to work out where the start button had gone. It's as simple as that. I wouldn't be productive on that platform. That is my personal choice. And easy to deploy? Question mark. I'd say yes, if there are some caveats and conditions that are met. Who are doing it? Well, they're doing it. And them. And them. So, why are all these big companies adopting Apple at such a pace? We all hear about it in the press. Mac at IBM, etc., Walmart, Cisco. So, we try to pull this back and say, well, what does this journey look like for our customers? What is it that we try to sort of unpick this this process almost, because we onboard a lot of customers and they're all struggling. and we have to ask ourselves, why are they struggling? So I broke this down to 3 areas. The vision. So the vision is ultimately, what is it that Mark sees when someone phones us up and says, help? The planning. That's where I get involved, and I stick my oar in and try to be a boss and usually break things. And then I hand my mess over to Ben, who then fixes all my stuff and then communicates that with the customer. So I'm going to hand over to Mark, who's going to talk a bit more about the vision.
Thank you. So when the customer joins us or we engage with them, it starts with a vision, a reason, a desire, an aspiration. Quite often when customers reach us, they're using Apple, but perhaps not as effectively as they could be. So our job at datajar is to help turn the customer's vision into a reality and to get Apple really working for them. Now, through this vision exercise and consultations with customers, we see some key trends for the adoption of Apple that I'm going to share with you now. Employee choice. Apple is growing in its adoption in the enterprise, and the reason being is it's seen as the employee's tool of choice. Employees would rather use a device they're familiar with in their personal life at work, and this is driving this adoption further. In fact, the ability to work on a device that the user has chosen greatly improves their productivity and also job satisfaction. Quote from Tim Cook: "Many people were living in a digital life at home and an analog life at work. They were disconnected to the tools they use. Why not use a tool that you're familiar with and get the most from?" Good question. Just think about how much more productive organisations would be if they adopted this approach. So Apple also appeals to organisations based on its culture and ethos. Organisations want to work in different ways and an ethos that works for their organisation. Let's take Ranuk. He's an Apple employee, and he quotes Apple's website: "The culture at Apple allows me to be who I am and celebrate who I am." And it's this ethos that gets driven down into the technology that Apple develop. We've got a wide range of products and tools, many of which you're familiar with, well, pretty much all I'd imagine, that's your jobs, that gives the user the choice of how they wish to best express themselves doing the job that they do. As James mentioned, Apple is also easier to manage and support, and this is helping to reduce IT costs. In the past, IT used a series of complex tools to deliver management function. Nowadays, we've got the Apple ecosystem and tools like Jamf that are making it a lot easier to support IT and users in organisations. Apple's user interface, which is very friendly, also enables users to solve their own problems, and this also drives down the support requirement for IT. So let me draw your attention to this statistic. This is from IBM, and this details the support usage Mac versus PC. And on my calculations, I've only got GCSE maths, but it's about 8 times the support requirement for a Windows user versus an Apple user. So what does this mean for IBM? It means cost savings, quite significant cost savings, because for every Mac they adopt in their business versus a PC, they save themselves $273, well, between $273 and $543. So at this number and this scale, that's some quite significant savings. So to recap, the adoption of Apple is being driven by a slide that I need to go backwards on and forwards on. There we go. Employee choice. Giving users the best tool to be productive, make them happier in their organisation, that fits in with the culture of organisations and the way that they wish to work, which is also driving down costs. Apple is cheaper to integrate for an organisation. And so we go from the vision stage quite often to the planning stage.
Cheers, Mark.
Oh, you've got one.
Yeah. Okay, so the planning part is where I get involved. As I mentioned, I stick my oar in. So I always start with my customers and say, where are you buying your kit from? Well, we get it from so-and-so and so-and-so, or I've been to Waitrose and I've bought a Mac on my credit card, my shopping, or whatever it's going to be. Stop. Basically, don't buy it from the dark web. Don't buy it with Bitcoin. Who's got Bitcoin? Is anyone? Yes. How you feeling? But basically buy it from an authorized reseller, okay? Why do we need to do that? Because of these. We all recognize these. These are the Apple deployment programs. There's education ones there and there's ones for business. Without utilizing these programs, you're going to get very, very stuck when you go and deploy all this kit. So do sign up for these programs. Has anyone seen this? So this popped up on a radar about a week ago. So this is Apple Business Manager. You can all take a quick look. It's at beta.business.apple.com. There's a few sketchy details around this, but obviously it's Apple Schools Manager but reskinned. But there's a few differences as well. So as more information becomes available on this is yet another plus to turn around to customers and say, really, Apple aren't serious about business? Well, that tells me they are. So why do we want deployment programs? Because of this. So you go to your reseller gives you devices, you pay for them, they assign your serial numbers to Apple, and then the device checks into your MDM, and then the serial numbers appear on your MDM, and the device gets set up. So all very good in practice, in theory rather, not practice. Why do we need DEP? Because of user-approved MDM. You're going to get very stuck. As of 10.13.2 and up, user-approved MDM is a requirement. So for deploying software, you're going to get stuck with things like this. So user-approved Kernel extension loading. So if you've got 200 Macs, 300 Macs out there, you don't want to be going around to those machines and clicking approve. This should all happen at the point of deployment. What are Kernel extensions? So you can run this script. Again, I can post some of these slides up afterwards. You can run this script and this will go through your system and work out what Kernel extensions you've got loaded. I ran it on my machine and it gave me this. Okay, so if you're not using DEP, you can't whitelist some of these things. So they're not going to run on your devices. So if you're trying to deploy AV, whoever still does that, but if you're trying to deploy AV to keep the security team happy, you're going to come unstuck straight away. And some very, 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 very nice people in the Mac admin community have started compiling a spreadsheet with all the team IDs and also all the vendors. So this makes it easier for you. And if you want to take a note of this URL, you can grab it there. Okay. So let's have a little recap. Let's have a little think. Who doesn't know how APNS works? Okay, excellent, that's one. Right, so APNS, Apple's Push Notification Services. What happens when you enroll a Mac into a management system? Well, first off, the Mac will communicate to your management server. It will then download an enrollment profile from that management server. This is important. We often get support queries that come in. My Mac's not getting any profiles, and I'll explain a bit why that happens in a minute. But we get an enrollment profile onto the device. Then the enrollment process happens between the MDM and the device. The device then communicates back to the MDM and says, hey, what have you got for me? And then it will deliver the payload. And it's that communication that all needs to happen. But unfortunately, people get in the way of that communication, either because they want to keep themselves in the job or they want to make my life difficult. So, I'll be quite clear. Please allow communications out of your network to Apple. This is Apple's block. Now, in theory, this is more of a guideline. The recommendation from us on our side would be a star.apple.com because some of the addresses leak out into Akamai or other CDNs. But fundamentally, even this can be a challenge for some orgs. And there's always the question, why? Well, if you don't do it, you're going to become very, very stuck in your deployment and indeed your old ways. Secondly, enable this port out. Don't get in the way of it. Don't filter it. Believe me, just let it go out to Apple. APNS feedback. If you have an internal MDM, this needs to communicate to Apple directly. Don't proxy it. Don't get in the way. Am I being clear here? Is this clear? Good. And for actual software from Apple CDN as well, you need to enable 80 out. You know, we deal with environments where sometimes this is a major issue. And obviously 443. Okay, so once you've got your networking and all those bits and pieces sorted, we then ask the question, are we going to bind our machines to Active Directory or not? Now obviously, is Joel here? No? Yes? No? We saw a presentation earlier from Joel around Nomad. Why would we join a computer to Active Directory? Now, often I get the following. Because it's what we've always done, we need to know where our devices are, right? And we can see where our computers are in their OUs. Well, all of this is rubbish because I hate to remind you that Active Directory is not an inventory system. It's an authentication system. Okay, what objects are called in Active Directory actually has no bearing. It is quite painful. That, again, is the exact response I usually have. So, if you join a machine to Active Directory, what do we do? Do you want to use, well, we want to use our asset tags, we want to use this, we want to use this. Why? Why do you want to go and spend money on asset tags and all the other bits and pieces when I can take a Mac out the box and it has the serial number on the case and it's unique? So if you do have to bind a machine to Active Directory, you can make sure the device's uniqueness and it's always going to be on there, and it's born with the device and it dies with the device. If you're running Jamf, you can use this command. Again, make things simple. This process can be completely automated. If you're using MDM, you can put this into your directory services binding payload if you have to join a machine to AD. But again, all these things are there, the writing's on the wall. It's like, why are we just trying to make everything complicated for ourselves? So next we look at what management platform we're going to look at. Do we look at Jamf or another commercial product, or do you look at open source? There's nothing wrong with any of them. Okay, it's down to choice, and is what, again, as much as your choice of hardware is there, so should your choice of management platform and what you want to internally support and help develop. For us, we combine the two. And then we added our patching service. So in summary, do think about your Apple deployment programs, how you're going to get these devices out there, where you're going to buy them from. This is something is so much overlooked. We have the same conversations day in, day out. Technical considerations. Do not proxy, do not content filter, do not block, do not packet inspect any of the traffic going out to Apple. Let it do its thing. And consider your management platform. It isn't versus this, versus that. It is what is going to work for you as the best management tool. And you can combine them. You're not limited to just one. Now over to Ben.
Thank you, James. Right, so the idea of this was really to show you guys kind of the journey through when we onboard customers, for example. So you can probably see from Mark to James kind of how a customer potentially looking at Apple, and we kind of talk to them about the vision, talk about how Apple's going to work for them, and then bring it in. And then my step is to actually implement that within their environment. Throughout my career, I've either been the employed to be the Mac guy at an organisation, or now really externals, helping people get Macs and make Macs succeed, or Apple devices succeed in their organisations. This is probably stuff that a lot of you folks have kind of dealt with, or you might have had as well. So one of the things James mentioned right at the kind of the top is discrimination. Now, if you're a white guy working IT, you've probably not dealt with discrimination much. But if you're an Apple guy, you probably have. And there's certain things that we really haven't helped ourselves with this though.
Hello, I'm a Mac. And I'm a PC. What's with the big boy clothes?
Oh, this, just got back from a meeting, so.
Why? Why were you at a meeting?
Well, I do work stuff too. Come on, I've been running Microsoft Office for years.
Microsoft Office work stuff. Oh, boy.
Well,
Oh, I knew this day would come.
PC. I just need to sit down. Oh, wow. There's plenty of work out there for both of us. I don't know why you're acting like this.
Why go on? Just let me lie here and appreciate.
A legit Apple ad. But it kind of doesn't help with this divide. But it's seriously how people see you. Like, hey, we start a conversation with people, say, can you actually bind a Mac to AD? Well, of course you can. Like, oh, you can't do 802.1x on a Mac. No, of course you can. And this is where that kind of education piece comes in. So we have a solution, then we try to implement it, and people will not blindly just say, open up the ports, etc. We have to then educate them and speak to them about these things. And when you look at things as well, it's about the network and stuff like that, they're really anti it, but you have to explain this secure protocol, the APNS and all that, even HTTPS2 and how that protocol works, and how it's going to basically secure their devices at the end. You allow APNS, you allow DP, you allow your MDM to function. You've then got 5-volt key running. You've got the ability to remote wipe, lock the device. All those things that actually can really kind of secure the device a lot more. And then it comes to other things as well. So a bit of this is actually the fear as well. One sec. So here you go. So that's a fun slide. So Webster's Dictionary defines xenophobia as the fear of the unfamiliar. And that seems to fuel this kind of discriminatory behaviour. Give you an example. I was an organisation and people were doing desk moves. And the people doing the desk moves, the kind of Windows PC techs on the team, refused to do the Mac moves. And after sitting down and discussing it with them, it's because they were uncomfortable with the Macs. What they didn't know was, they didn't know if either of these, which one's a computer and which one's a screen. But if you think about it, you've got the little bar at the bottom, that's the only difference. If you go on the back of these, some of these displays will have power, they'll have Ethernet, they'll have connection. So why would they potentially not be a computer unless you educate them? And it's just these small little things that can really make people a lot more comfortable and more engaging. And it only takes 10 minutes or so to just to kind of sit down, have a conversation, maybe over a coffee, and find out from these people what their kind of fears are. And then we have dongles, and dongles, and dongles.
All the dongles.
All the dongles. It's the same problem. Not that Apple are the only vendor who have dongles. I know, there's plenty of PC manufacturers out there, other PC manufacturers that will have dongles for Ethernet ports, etc. But again, it's just the unknown. So that's where a lot of people are coming from. Some of it is just they really can't be bothered and don't care, which is the one other thing you have to kind of deal with. But the other thing is they're scared, because this feels unfamiliar and it's unsettling to them. They're not going to be engaging with you. So you just want to kind of like olive branch and just trying to bring them on side. And then there will be questioning. You'll be questioning them, they'll be questioning you. You'll be questioning them, they'll be questioning you. You educate the questions. And it goes backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. There we go. But it's just part of that kind of working process with these people. Sorry, that's a horrible term. With people that are maybe more discriminatory towards what we're doing. And it's just, you need to be kind of working with them on this. And that's why there'll be questions back and forth, back and forth. You'll be going over old ground, you need to be patient. I'm very patient. Don't look at those two. But it's always been this way for me. Whenever I've worked somewhere, you always start from the ground up. There'll be other things in regards to education. There'll be kind of terminology. So back in the day when portable home directories were a thing that kind of worked for the narrow window in 10.4 was when I got it to work, about 2 months. It's called roaming profiles on the Windows side, or bonjour or rendezvous, if you go back that far, is actually multicast DNS really, and it's just trying to bring those in line. And you can't do group policy on Macs, so you don't have to worry about where you bind them, but you can use your management system to do what you need. But just trying to educate folks on this, because people don't know, and we're not born with this knowledge. We've learned it. I've been doing this now for like 16 years, so it's been a long journey for me to get to where I am. And these people aren't experienced with what we're doing, so just kind of being a bit patient with them and trying to help them on that journey as well. So what you should find after this road, and it's going to be a bumpy road as well. We've got implementations where we've been working with people and the environment's been quite Apple hostile. And it's taken a couple of weeks to do a job, or maybe 3 days. Sometimes it's a bit hostile, but they've just got on it and just made the changes and everything's working. Some folks, it's taken a year, and we still haven't implemented a single Mac in their environment because the whole network's set up and that. And it's been a journey. They're learning a new environment that they're building at the same time as trying to bring a new OS into the environment. It's great planning. So it's just trying to figure this one out. But at the end of it, what you should get to is things like this. The emails where they send you Mac like that, they will change. They will change. They'll slowly change. They'll subtly change. They will come like that. So the case will change. The wording will change, and it will be softer, and the conversations will be better and more productive. But you certainly need to kind of have a lot of backwards and forwards with these people, and just trying to, if there's any resistance there, just try and find out why. And a lot of the time, it could be a fear of things, Apple has some great documentation out there to help us. Maybe not as much as we'd all like, but there is certainly some things you can pass on to them. So there you go, just to recap. Although I did realise I missed a trick here. Should have made that Q and R. That would have been dirt, yeah. This is something, really, folks, these things have got to be things that you've seen before, right? Is any of this really going to be particularly new to anyone? No? Has anybody not kind of been in a workplace where it's kind of more Windows-centric and not seen some kind of discrimination because you're just like the Apple guy or girl? Right, one guy. Okay, good for you. But it's sad that it's to be expected, but I think we can kind of make it better for people.
Yeah. Just going to say, it's quite loud. Thanks. Any stories before we round up of your experiences? I'd love to hear them. I really would, actually.
Or any examples where you might want our kind of feedback or something, or?
Go on, throw. I thought you were good at throwing.
No. Actually got the poor guy running now.
Hey, Tom.
Can anybody hear me?
Is the mic on?
Yeah, I can hear it. So one of the places where we were able to show we come in as integrators for individual department Macs inside larger PC-based organizations. And one of the places where we were able to successfully show a win for the organization was in machine recycling, in terms of taking a machine from one user, taking it to another user, having then wiped it in intermediary time. Their Windows environment, they would take about an hour and a half to custom bespoke build a PC for somebody. And we were able to do it with our deployment systems and our management systems in about 30 minutes. And so we could show them clear wins like that for the Mac in their environment, where even if we're deploying most of Creative Suite, we can get that deployment time down well below where they're expecting it for their Windows environment. And so to actually have the ability to just wipe out a machine, restore it, and take it back to factory and then reconfigure, to be able to show them active wins like that was key to being accepted by their department as, hey, they're really IT professionals. When they were like, oh, you manage the Macs, how cute. And having engineering wins like that give you currency to spend.
Yeah. Any others? No stories at all? No? Oh, there's one at the back, there's two at the back, here we go.
All right, I'm just going to toss this over my head.
Go on then, like a bouquet.
Do I go first?
Yes, I think. Just a quick one.
Sorry, speak up a bit there.
Don't think the mic's working.
Is the mic working? Spare mic?
Hello. Okay, one of the problems that I had was going to networking people and saying I need the following ports open for MDM, DEP, and BGP. And then not understanding what MDM, DEP, or BGP was. but it was as if I needed to learn everything about networking to request what I needed to request, but they wanted me to write an idiot's guide to the whole backball deployment for them to actually buy into it and do what I needed to do.
Yeah, it's not easy in the slightest, and you have to, appease the people. I've forgotten how many meetings I've sat down and had with ISR or anyone like that, or the security teams, just to literally almost reverse engineer what is it we're trying to do. And often you get the request in from another department, we want some Macs, and then it goes to IT, they didn't know anything about it, and you're having this battle internally, and you're not only fighting the technology side, you're fighting the political side, because one department's not talking to another, and this is where the difficulty comes in.
So that's especially true if you do the implementation. So James and Mark might have met with kind of more of the senior members of the company, and then suddenly the IT team are kind of tasked with assisting me to bring in an MDM. But they haven't had any buy-in, or they just see it as a burden, or they just can't be bothered, and it maybe hasn't filtered down kind of that actually this is maybe the company's vision for things. So yeah, there is no real way of kind of skirting that thing of having to teach networking folk what you're doing and why you're doing it, other than trying to be patient with it and give them as much documentation as you can, and trying to find the rationale for the fears, or what is it they're trying to do, because in IT we're great at acronyms and we're great at random terms, and vendors do their own things as well. To actually find what is the issue and what is the thing they actually want to know. If you get that real kind of direct question, can obviously lead things and simplify it a bit, but sometimes it's just the whole lot. How does MDM work? Why do we need MDM? You're like, oh, okay, this might take more than a coffee. So
another one at the back there?
Dan.
So I was working with somebody, and my title is Workstation Automation Engineer, and we're corresponding over email. Never met him. I think he might have, I think he was European of some sort. So there was a language barrier for sure. And after we were talking for a little bit, he's like, oh, you're a workstation automation engineer, so you work a lot with servers and stuff. Because, man, I hate Macs, and this company that I work for, they're making me work on a Mac, and people who buy Macs are really ignorant. And that was pretty much the end of the conversation.
Not at all a sweeping statement there either. That's quite awesome, isn't it? Did you do a slow clap?
Hung it up on my wall.
Thanks, Dan. Any others? One over here. Good throw. Solid.
The age-old adage of restarting a Mac fixes 99% of the problem. How do you guys deal with sort of trying to break down the sort of technical bits behind that? Because I found, the 80% of stuff that I'll deal with on a daily basis will be, just restart it. And I kind of fall into that category of it not helping ourselves for it. But I found that if you try and go into the technical details, people's eyes kind of glaze over and roll into their head. So I think sometimes there is a way to go around it and help ourselves by doing it. But for situations where restarting the Mac kind of is the solution, how do you guys deal with that? What's your take on that notation of trying to fix a problem?
Well, we usually explain to the customer anyway, no technology is perfect. It's written by humans, it's software. We all know we pull apart bits and pieces all the time. We get installers from vendors which look like they've been written by a 5-year-old. You equally, with that in mind, the Mac itself, not to go too much on a tangent, is usually pretty stable. It's the minute we start implementing all this other stuff, and usually the Macs where we get issues like that, there's something odd going on anyway, and they've installed some random piece of software probably outside of the App Store and things like that. But we try and educate where we can and spend a bit of time with them, and just because at the end of the day, if you're dealing with a designer, he or she's interested in just doing some artwork. He's not interested in the technical bits and pieces about how the inner workings of his Mac. That's for us to worry about. So you almost need to explain to them a bit more. They do have some responsibility. It's like if you had a car, you'd need to make sure that you service it at least, or you did take it to the garage. You can't just be completely ignorant. It's not going to run itself completely. And I guess off the back of that, then we would, certainly for some customers, we give them a button. When it breaks, you just push the button there and it will restart for you. But I don't know if there is a clear answer to that, really. I mean, it's quite a difficult one. But education, always, we fall into that.
We've also got some customers where once we brought the kind of Apple management system in, they just throw everything over the fence to us. So they just, again, they honestly don't care from implementation and just going down. So they just, any problem with any device, they just chuck it our way. So if we said restart, they wouldn't question it. They're not bothered. Unfortunately, the kind of trying to educate might not always work. But we asked them to. We're there to try to make the Apple problems go away for a lot of folks. In some ways, that's in the entirety. They just don't want to deal with them at all once we're involved. And sometimes it is us advising folks to suffer a restart. But like James says, really, the majority of the time we're seeing problems with machines like that have been up for a while. There's always been some random software that was crashing a background process and filling up the log files and filling up the Macintosh HD with random log files in temp, and then you have to reboot and just kind of clearing it out. And or someone opening 30,000 fonts and thinking it was a good idea. Unfortunately, there's some of these things we can't do much about. But things like a simple restart will often work. And unless we either go to the depths of kind of how the program's written, maybe where it's using the stick in its garbage kind of thing, or we just say restart.
Who was that?
You got someone?
I've got a little man in here. Any other questions? Yeah, one at the back. Go on, how's your arm? Go on. Good shot.
Nice.
I'd just like to say something about discrimination. I have like a three-strike rule where if a company doesn't appreciate you, leave them. They don't deserve you. Yeah, so it's like fighting an all-Windows environment. You're trying to manage 60% of their estate because they're all Macs. Companies are moving to Macs, however, they're a Windows management company. You're asking for support from them to help you, but no one gives you support. So in the end, you fight 3 times, done, move on. Yeah, if they're not going to change, then you need to move away from them because they're not going to help you.
Yeah, and I think as you sort of almost mature through your IT career and things like that. I mean, I look back and I deal with a lot of Windows admins. I deal with security and other bits and pieces. And do you know what? I couldn't do their job, but you know what? At some point in my career, I have done their job. That's the difference. And when you can look at all these things and just know enough to ask the right questions, to get onto their side, for them to realise then actually this guy just isn't a Mac guy, he knows other stuff as well. So it's not easy. None of this is easy, but it's trying to almost break down those I look at them as social barriers really, against why one thing is better than another. It is, if you want to look at it, computer racism. We should have just done that, shouldn't we? Anyway, any more questions? Stories? No? Okay. You're all probably quite hungry, and we are precisely 1 minute to go until you can eat food, and you're also another hour closer to the pub. So anyway, thank you very much.